One. Hello, this is Tim Law with Planet Forward Coaching and Self-Reliance You. Always remember, your life, your dreams, your goals, and career are all essential. Big thank you to over 300 people who have actually subscribed on this channel, Planet Forward Coaching. A great deal of collective wisdom that's here. I'm very, very pleased to have a good friend of mine, Mark Coudray from California. And he's going to, just describe his story, his business, which is nothing short of phenomenal. He's also going to describe how to handle disruptive events, and how to navigate through these. And by the way, just behind him, he's got all these books that you see up there with the green dots. He's read at least once. Any up there that you see with a gold dot, he has read anywhere from 6 to 10 times or more. So he is a voracious reader, and it really makes a big difference on how successful he has been. So welcome, Mark, and please tell us your story here, sir.
All right, I'll give you a little bit of a background. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my first company when I was 19. It will be 48 years old this year, and it's still running. I have two other companies that I started that are over 30 years old, and my newest company is about 10 years old now, or is coming up on 10 years. It was formed in 2012 after a personal, really tragedy in our family. My business was 30-something years old, 38 years old at the time. And we had just made the decision, business was great. We made the decision to move into a new building, and we put about $1 million of our own money into the expansion of the building, no borrowed money. And as we moved in, it was right as the economy tipped with the 2008 recession. And so we went into this panic mode of, we lost our profitability. We couldn't find our groove. And part of it was the new building, part of it was new processes, part of it was a bigger option, all these different kinds of things. It took us about 2 years and about another $500,000 to survive that. And we were just coming out of that in 2010, April of 2010, when my son was diagnosed at 23 at the time with acute leukemia. And this was a super aggressive type of leukemia that literally 48 hours earlier, he was at work. And the doctors had done some tests because he was having some unusual swelling. And they called us and said, you need to take Daniel to the emergency room right now. You have no time to spare. Immediately drop whatever you're doing. And he was literally 2 hours away from dying. And we took him at that point by ambulance to Stanford University, Stanford Medical, where he stayed for the next 19 months, 2 bone marrow transplants and 11 different rounds of chemo before ultimately we lost him. And in the process of doing that, we ended up losing all of our personal assets with the exception of our home. And we were days away from losing that to foreclosure as well. So we had a business with 20 employees. We had to sell everything to pay the medical bills, and it was horrible. And out of that crisis, because I'm an analytical person and I've been a consultant and a problem solver for decades, I stepped back and I started to analyze my own business. How could a successful business with $1.5 million of cash in the bank find itself liquidating in a period of months? And I looked at this and I started mapping out what I found. And from that, I realized that virtually 100% of the people that I've done business with and that I know in business, which were hundreds of companies, every single one that I talked to had the same underlying weakness. And from that, I crafted a model that allows any business, any person for that matter, any family for that matter, to deal with major unexpected disruption. And when COVID hit a year ago, the world went into panic, went into shutdown, incredible disruption. And for me, it was deja vu all over again. This was exactly what we went through literally in a life or death situation. And because of that, I was able to navigate the pathway up till today. smoothly and calmly and with confidence and self-assurance. And as a result of that, all of my clients and the people around us have experienced a degree of kind of calmness when everybody else is crazy and everybody else is living in this chaos and fear of the unknown and the impending danger and the impending doom. And I thought when Tim had reached out to me today that I would share that framework because it works incredibly well at any age, whether you're a child or whether you're an adolescent, whether you're an adult, young adult, family, mature, old white guy like me, or anybody. And it gives you the ability to step back and calm things down. And it's really easy to learn. We can teach it in 10 minutes.
Well, let's teach away then, Mark. Sounds
Right.
fantastic. Certainly love to hear more. And anybody who's listening to this, and certainly have a number of entrepreneurial and business people that would I'm sure they would love to hear this as well. And it's also good for people that, whether they're self-employed, whether they're employees, or any realm, as far as being able to handle the stressors of this whole COVID scenario, for sure. So please go ahead.
So there's a few things that we need to know right up front. Right up front, anxiety and excitement are the same emotion neurologically. The parts of our brain that experience those emotions are the exact same parts of the brain. Think about this: when you were a kid, the very first time you rode the huge roller coaster that you'd never been on before, you were kind of scared. You wanted to go there, but it was so big and you could feel that kind of prickly anxiety feeling. And then you get on there and you're click, 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 going up the roller coaster, and the anxiety is building. And then you get up to the top and you pause, and then you start that big drop, and then your stomach drops out, and the feeling of excitement of the whole roller coaster experience hits you. And by the time the roller coaster is over, you jump out of the car and you run around to the line to get in line for the next time through, with the anticipation of the exhilaration, the excitement. And literally 2 minutes prior to that, you were worried about whether this could be something dangerous. And so that was the first thing that really tipped me off in terms of understanding what happens when we're in a crisis mode. The first thing that I would say to be completely aware of is that whatever you're going through, whatever you're experiencing, it's just an event in time. It's happening now. It's just an event. If we say it's good or bad or exhilarating or devastating or tragic or any of those adjectives, if we put an adjective in front of the event that takes place, we're empowering that event with an emotional component. And if you're in a state of chaos and crisis and uncertainty, all you've got to do, if you want the most horrific negative thing that you can do to your self-conscious, is just watch the news on any channel, because they thrive on negativity. They thrive on crisis. They thrive on creating a villain and an adversary. And so whether it's the orange man or whether it's somebody else, it doesn't make a difference. They've created a villain and they've amplified that villain. They've amplified everything around it to create that uncertainty, because they know that when you live in uncertainty, you can't make rational decisions. That's a whole nother part that, if we've got time, we can talk about. But the key thing here is to take the labels off and just say, this is a moment in time. And what I've experienced in my life is that when you take those labels off and you say, this is the now, this is what's happening right now, what's actually happening, and just be neutral and describe what's happening in a neutral way. If it's a car accident, it's, there was a collision on the road, there were injuries involved, there were two potential fatalities, there was 2 critical injuries, one of which is arterial bleeding. That's the calm description of the facts of the matter. It's not, it's like, oh my God, my son's bleeding out. That's putting an emotional connection to it. If you look at it only as an event in time, there are three things that can happen, only three things, and two of them are bad. Things could get worse, things can stay the same, or things can get better. And so this causes me, has enlightened me, created an awareness that any event can move me towards an outcome that is desirable. And if you've ever, I'm a big reader, as Tim observed. One of my favorite all-time books, and I can't tell you how many times I read it. It's an old one, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Great book.
Huge book. And one of the very first things is begin with the end in mind. And beginning with the end in mind is about goals. And this is all about goal setting. It's about coaching. It's about coaching to the outcome. If you have a clear idea of what your goal is, then any event that takes place, you can look at that event and say, how is this event going to move me towards my goal? And you will look for opportunities to move you to that goal. About this, and I speak with business owners, they say, oh my God, but yeah, this is Corona and it's devastated our business, and our customers are down, our business is down, and we can't make our payroll. You see the emotion that's in that. And I say, okay, listen, everybody is down. This has shut everybody's business down. There's never been a time in my life where anything like this has ever happened. So this is our opportunity to use the virus as the basis for strengthening our organization. Everybody is on unemployment. We only bring back the best. We don't need to bring back the people that are negative. We don't need to bring back the power brokers. We don't need to bring back the ones that work on political motivations and backstabbing and all those kinds of things. And we can do the same thing with our customers. And I use it, since we're in a coaching situation here, I'd like to provide a little bit of an analogy. You're in Pennsylvania, right? And
Yes,
and you're tennis coach, and let's just imagine that you're a soccer coach, and you've got this opportunity to take the team to New York. And this is really an amazing time because your team is going to get to meet the New York Yankees. And the New York Yankees say, hey, come on out in the field, let's play some ball. What do you think your chances of beating the New York Yankees are? About 1 in a billion, right? Now, we empty the stadium from Corona, and they say, we'll come back and we'll do this again when we get back together. So here we are 9 months later. We come into the stadium. Here's the Yankees coming into the stadium. And by the way, your team was the Pennsylvania state champion soccer team, high school soccer team. You come into the stadium and the field has been reconfigured for soccer. Now, what do you think your chances of beating the Yankees are?
Well, certainly if they've got to play the game of soccer, I would think our chances would be pretty good.
They have no strategy. They don't know the rules of the game. They don't know the positions. We just equalized everything. This is a perfect example of what happened with Corona, is that it equalized everyone. And if you play to your strength and you have a clear vision of what your goals and your outcomes are, this is why mission and vision and core values are so essential to success and to confidence. Because any situation, when you're coming from a core value and when you're coming toward a goal and you're using this model that I've shared with you, you can maintain your confidence against any adversary.
Oh, great ideas, Mark. Really like them. What else can you add to this? This is super.
I could take a ton of things. So let's circle back to the neuroscience, because I have a really strong math and science background, and I've always been, because I'm a very analytic person, I always look to the science. I always look to the math. When I hear the people on the news say, well, we're going to trust the science, it just makes my skin crawl, because they don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
If they knew what it meant, they would know that science is about presenting a hypothesis and testing against the hypothesis for an outcome. It's not somebody saying this is what we should do. So be that as it may, neuroscience is one of the things that fascinates me. And one of the areas of neuroscience that is so exciting is how we make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And in our brain, there's an ancient part of our brain. There's three parts of our brain. There's the ancient part of the lizard brain.
Mm-hmm.
This is the instinctual brain that goes back 2 million, 4 million years. And it's encoded into our DNA with instinctual behavior to keep you from getting eaten by the tiger or the woolly mammoth or, you know, the other attacking tribes or whatever. It's instinctually wired. And this part of your brain is called the amygdala. And in the amygdala, it's also known as the fight or fight response. I'm sure you've all experienced it. We all have at some point in our life. When we're really scared or we're put into a really stressful situation, the amygdala floods our brain with two chemicals, cortisol and catecholamine. These are the two stress hormones. And the thing about the stress hormones is that they immobilize or anesthetize or block the signal of the brain to the neocortex, which is the new part of our brain. That's the logical part. That's what allows us to make decisions. So when this process of blocking the brain is called amygdala hijack, and you can Google it, you can read all about it. It's pretty interesting, actually. It's pretty fascinating. So when you're in an amygdala hijack situation, I know we've heard the saying deer in the headlights or scared stiff. That is the description of amygdala hijack. You literally paralyze somebody so that they don't move. It's a protective mechanism. Whenever we're in chaos, whenever we're in a crisis or a critical situation of unknown expectation, cortisol kicks in and hijacks our neocortex. Excuse me. And if you think about the news over the last year, we have been living in a constant state of amygdala hijack. Nobody can make a decision. Nobody can challenge. Nobody can question anything that's going on. So the hijackers, the ones that are creating the crisis, can manipulate their agenda without the interference of the entire population of the country, left or right, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
So this is exactly what's going on right now. And there's many, many verifiable studies that you can look at and read about and find out about it. And then the semantics of the words that are being used in the mass communication, these are all words that are designed to agitate that state of instability. And if you think about what's going on and you've watched anything that's happened in the last year, it's just like the train is off the track.
Sure. Oh, without a doubt, Mark. Totally agree. Mark, I try to apply as much of this as I can to teens and young adults because I do think this is a population that they're not quite to adulthood yet, or they're getting closer.
Right.
What thoughts, advice, and everything you're saying here is so incredibly accurate. I haven't done maybe as much reading as you, but I've done quite a bit. What do you think about how applying this as far as that particular population is concerned?
Adolescent brain is not fully mature. It's still growing. It doesn't really start maturing until about 24, 25 years old. So as a result, it's particularly susceptible to these big emotional swings. And when you compound that with the whole emerging and developing hormonal mix that's happening in adolescence as you're growing, you've got this chemical cocktail that's going on in your brain. And really understanding the importance of understanding what's happening in your brain is critical to maintaining some sense of stability. It's really, really easy to be overcome with all of these situations, and even interpersonal communications between girls and boys, young men, young women, other, same sex, girl to girl, guy to guy. All of these kinds of things, they're new. These are new things that you're experiencing. And so as a result, it compounds that chaos and that uncertainty. There are new feelings that you're not familiar with. There are new situations that you're not familiar with. And I think the key thing is just to say, if I'm not familiar with this, step back in your mind for a second and say, take the label off. What's really going on right now? What's happening right now? And two, there's only three things that can happen, and two of them are bad, right? So what do you want to happen to be good? And focus on looking for the content that is going to, in the conversation or in the situation that's going to be okay for you. And this is, in the very beginning, it's kind of hard to do that because it's new, but very, very quickly, you'll get the hang of it, and it will really help. It really, really helps a lot. And what I find as a coach or as a parent, or even as a young adult, the things that you can say, if you say something, it's very easy to create an emotionally charged response that gets a defensive response or defensive reaction. And what I found is some of the things that we can say really help that. So in any time that you're in what could be potentially a fight or, something physical that's going on, I say, help me understand. Help me understand what's going on here and tell me more. So when you say, help me understand and tell me more, what you're doing is you're de-escalating the situation. You're moving it more towards neutral from being so adversarial. And in the process of moving towards neutral, there is a high degree of empathy in those questions, which means I'm seriously interested in what you're saying. I'm trying to understand your position. And I think one of the major issues we have with young adults today, and especially Gen Z, which is pretty much what we're talking about here, Gen Zs are digital natives. They have grown up entirely in a digital world.
Sure.
And they are on their devices hours a day. They scroll right, scroll left, swipe right, swipe left, text this. You're doing 15 different things at once. And the documented attention span of Gen Z, you can Google it and look it up. The documented attention span is 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And with an 8-second attention span, it's impossible to think critically. So you have to slow everything down in order to make sense of it. If it's happening really quick, that's chaos. And when it's chaotic, you can't filter the important parts of that chaos from the noise of the unimportant. So slow things down by saying, speak slowly and say, help me understand. I really want to know, I really want to understand what you're trying to say to me. And just tell me more.
Yeah.
Those two things really, really help.
Yeah. Well, ironically, Mark, I have a pretty good contact guy named Tom Kirsting. He's written a book called Disconnected, and he's a clinical psychologist. We're in pretty close contact with each other. He's been on a lot of the major programs and everything throughout the country. And it's exactly what he's talking about regarding the, the shorter attention span. He talks about acquired ADHD, kids that weren't even close to being diagnosed like this at 4 and 5 years old, actually coming out like this as teenagers because of the huge amounts of overuse of the, smartphones, gaming, social media, et cetera. So he's actually got a lot of the research and everything that goes exactly with what you're saying. And I certainly agree with you, what you're discussing here.
And I think I have not read anything yet, and I really haven't researched it, but I think that there's a real basis for this, that if in this short attention span period, we're living in a state of low level chaos all the time, it's noise, right? And in the process of that noise, our mind is just releasing those neurochemicals I spoke of, cortisol and catecholamine. And I'm wondering what the influence on the brain of long-term chronic exposure to those two hormones is. And if a lot of the ADHD isn't directly a result of excessive exposure to those two neurochemicals.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. And the other challenge, certainly with COVID and everything, Mark, which you'd agree is in this age group, the amount of, potential self-harm that's going on, with kids trying to handle this chaos and everything. And, certainly the, scenario where people are continually on social media or whatever, it's really ginning up a lot of, anxiety, a lot of anger, that kind of thing, just all kinds of conflict. And, obviously technology's here to stay. We understand that. However, if you use it as a tool, productive tool, it's certainly much better than, just doing, mindless gaming and ongoing, social media.
I could completely agree.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of it too, Tim, is not having a clear idea of where you want to end up.
Mm-hmm.
What is the successful outcome look like? And oftentimes when I'm speaking to someone that's in a tremendous amount of discomfort because of this uncertainty that's revolving around them, I'll say, look, in a perfect world, what would you want your world to look like a year from now?
Mm-hmm.
Or 6 months from now? Get them, this is the adult version of a timeout. We want to take them out of the current chaos and put them into the future and get them to visualize a future that is their ideal future. I've just literally begun with the end in mind at that point, and I've helped facilitate their vision for themselves. And now I can say in a more neutral way, help me understand why that's so important. That's interesting. Why is that important to you? And you get them to go deeper into that, and we can develop that into a concrete anchor that we can stay focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And in sports, the importance of visualization and the
Mm-hmm.
importance on focusing on the goal and the importance of fundamentals. These are fundamentals for navigating turbulent times.
Yeah. They're outstanding, Mark. Absolutely. This has been fantastic. Any other last second thoughts? And please stick around once we're done here to
Sure.
chat for a minute once we close it out. But Mark, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you as far as your business, and that kind of thing, if you could give that contact information and actually the the business that you're actually involved with, helping people with navigate, as you were saying, could you
Right.
give us that
Sure.
contact information?
So I have a plan, right? I have a plan,
Mhm.
and that plan is called the Catalyst Plan.
Mhm.
So catalystplan.com is where the business side is. Anybody can reach me at Mark Coudray, MarkCoudray, on any social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, any place. It's Mark Coudray, at Mark Coudray. And if you want to email me, it's Coudray@Coudray.com. So I try and make it as easy as possible. And I welcome any outreach with anybody. And I answer all of my personal emails. I don't have an assistant or anything like that. Anything that I could do to help provide clarity for anyone and provide some sense of sanity for them moving forward, I totally am open and totally welcome it.
Okay, well, thank you, Mark. So it's the Catalyst Plan, and obviously you gave all your other information there. Appreciate it very, very much. And like I said, just sit tight and we'll catch up here once we get done. Thank you so very, very much. This was outstanding and very, very well, very much needed. So thank you.